Good evening and welcome to the RSU 14 Board of Directors special meeting. The date is April 9th, 2014. The time is 6:32 p.m. and we are here in the Wyndham Town Council chambers. May we have a roll call, please?
Sure can. Kate Brooks. Eric Colby.
Yes.
Jennifer Fleck.
Here.
Diana Foisland.
Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Pete Hensler.
Here.
Don Perkins.
Here.
Jerry Keane Dwyer.
Here.
Katrina Sangster.
Here.
Kate Nealon.
Here. And join us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have as the first item on our agenda any public participation on the budget. I'm not sure that any of the public here is here to participate on that topic. So this is something that there will be other opportunities. If there's anyone out in TV land that would like to have an opportunity, there will be others to comment on, including, and I wish I had the dates with me. Sandy, do you have the date of the public hearing?
Okay, so,
The May meeting?
yeah, the May 5th, let's see. May 28th is the public budget meeting
Thank
at
you.
Wyndham High School Auditorium at 6:30. Again, that's May 28th. And then the budget validation referendum is June 10th. And then I think you're going to vote on this budget on April
16th.
Yeah.
Right, which will be in Raymond. So we are always open to any emails that anybody would like to send us, of course. And May 28th is the date that the budget will then, whatever budget we vote on as a board will go to the public on May 28th when we, as a group, including the public, will vote line by line at the Wyndham High School Auditorium, 6:30 p.m. And then the final part of the process is on June 10th. It will be going to the polls and the budget validation referendum on June 10th. Okay, thank you. So please participate. All right, so we're going to be slightly ahead of schedule. That's always a good thing. We're going to begin our evening with the sabbatical leave request, which is coming back onto the agenda from a previous meeting where we inquired about more information, and we've been presented with some additional information. And would you like to also join us up here if there are any questions? Lindsay?
Yeah, thanks for having me back, first of all. I have something to project.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
right. Could we take a 1-minute break?
Sure, we might not be able to get it to stop, so we'll just do our best.
Song and dance, maybe?
Do, 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 do.
Maybe Kate can give us
Anyone
an
know the
update.
joke? It's gotta be clean.
I'm gonna ask Kate if there's anything with high
Oh,
school.
yeah, anything going on at the high school that we should know about?
It's a blood drive tomorrow.
Oh, a blood drive, there you go. I happen to
Dancing
be,
with the staff is
okay,
Thursday.
see, all these things.
Do you have any other news from today?
Yeah.
Oh, I also,
Do you have a microphone?
Wait, yeah, get a microphone in front of your mouth. So give
you.
us all 3 updates again, this is great.
So tomorrow we have a blood drive going on in the morning. Actually, it's all day, so people are gonna go and donate, which is great.
Yeah,
Donate, so that's gonna be
for the
fun.
first time.
Yep, for the first time, so that's gonna be fun.
Is it open to the public?
I'm not positive, but
You're 6, you can't go anyway.
yeah.
Trust me. She wanted the public to
Usually
know.
blood drives are usually open
Yeah.
to the
I think
public.
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Projecting my desktop.
Great, so Wyndham High School, and what else?
There is dancing with the staff tomorrow night.
Okay.
So that's always a big fundraiser to help Project Grad. So
That supports
everybody
Kate.
go.
Go,
Yahoo!
go.
Everybody go. And top 10 was
Yeah,
announced
it'll
today
load, I think.
as well. So
Oh.
yes, I was 9th.
I thought there might be
I was.
another reason why you were telling us that. Not that you would have told that if Mr. Howell hadn't been here, but congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's very exciting. So, yes.
I thought we were moving to top 10%, no?
We do both.
You do both?
Yep.
Okay.
Great. Well, hopefully.
Yeah, there is.
We'll see if it loads up there for you.
Okay.
Love it when that happens.
Did he? Yeah, it is cool.
Well, I would just like
It's
to thank
interesting 'cause
Kate
it's
for that
web-based,
ad
so
hoc
You have to get used to that, but
interlude.
there. We'll see if
Not that Kate, that
it
Kate.
doesn't
Kate
fail us.
Nealon.
Okay.
So welcome, Lindsay Hansen is back in front of us, and she is presenting some further information about a proposed internship, not internship, sabbatical, down in DC.
Yes, thanks for having me back. I did want to share this with you guys just really quickly, based on some things that you guys had questions about last time. And so I think I got a lot of those questions answered. I had 2 things that I believe you guys received. One was a letter from the CEO of the company, and the other was a qualifications kind of job description page. And if anybody needs a copy, I have some extras of those as well. But this is really just to bring you through the process a little bit and get some of those questions answered. So again, this is the STEM Education Fellowship. So really it's a professional development opportunity to work with science, technology, engineering, and math, and also the next gen standards that we're deeply involved in right now. So just to give you one more piece of information, or a couple weeks ago when I spoke with you, I talked about these standards. And these are standards that are going to be, and are currently being implemented in the high school, but next year's freshmen will be expected to have graduation standards that are aligned with these. And I just wanted to show you this image because I think it does a good job of showing the complexity of the standards that we have. I have this really large book in front of me that we've been working with in the science department that really outlines the 3 different strands. So what makes these different is that we have disciplinary core ideas, which are the content of science. So, for example, energy, and teaching energy throughout the grade levels. And then it also takes the practices of science, so skills, carrying out investigations, analyzing and interpreting data, and then one other thing which would be a cross-cutting concept, so ideas like systems and change over time. And those 3 strands are woven together, and those units are supposed to be taught in sequence with each other, which is really a more reasonable and realistic expectations for how we all learn things anyway. So these are the complexities of the standards that I'm hoping to go away next year and figure out how that looks like it would incorporate itself into the things that we create for graduation standards. So one thing that landed in my mailbox the day after I met with you last was a journal from the National Science Teachers Association. And I wanted to highlight a couple things that were in there. There were 3 top articles within that all really talked about kind of what I'm asking to do next year. So I just wanted to highlight that it's kind of something that's happening on this national level, and it's definitely new and different. So this is a publication, and so I just took a couple quotes out of here. How are schools across the country incorporating science, technology, engineering, and mathematics into their curricula? And there's a STEM forum, which will feature opportunities to hear from education, building partnerships, assessing their efforts, and finding new ways to engage their students in STEM. So one of these conferences is actually next fall in Virginia, so I'm hoping to attempt to get there through this company. But this is something that people are getting together on a national scale to try to figure out, because it's tricky. So this was presented in that article, and this is their theme for their conference, so it's all about STEM. And right here we have Patty McGinnis, who is the director of the middle level science teaching in the National Science Teachers Association, and she had this quote about the next generation science standards being a pivotal moment in science education, and that we'll look back at this, and that it's very important that we have successful implementation of professional development for educators at all levels. So That was another interesting thing to look at. Let's see if we jump forward here. Should be loading. And so the last one, which was highlighted, big black letters at the top, fellowships foster science education. And this is talking about a teacher who had the opportunity to do a fellowship with a company outside of Boston who went into schools and picked out people to be fellows. So very similar situation. And she just said that she'd never received science professional development in a district. And this was the first opportunity that she had for ideas on developing science in that curriculum. So this was an interesting aspect. So this came out in the April edition, so very recent. And then I wanted to answer some of the questions that you guys had. So I just picked out and highlighted some things that were in the letter that you received, but one of the questions was about their business model. And this was a quote from the founder. I founded Arcadia Power with the mission of bringing clean energy choice to all Americans. And at Arcadia Power, we believe the best way to influence how energy is produced is to increase clean energy production. So they purchase renewable energy certificates from new wind farms, and they sell it to their customers. So the vast majority of people in the US either don't yet have an option because it's a monopoly, or they don't know that they do. And so they see education as a critical component for the success of their company and creating a generation that takes that choice into their own hands. So that was a quote from them on their business model. You also had some questions about who my contact person would be and the people that I would have access to. And so Lindsay will work directly with myself, so this is Kieran. And she would also have access to our partners and advisory board, which includes the CIO of the World Bank, William Massey of FERC, and Jim Purcell of Nashville Electric Services. In addition to that, I will be working with Christine. I've had some conversations with her about touching in quarterly on what's going on with the standards, and also connecting with Anita Bernhardt, who's at the state level in Maine working with STEM education. So I've had many conversations with her at conferences, and she would be a great resource to touch back with. She's definitely in the know. These are some of the requirements and qualifications for the fellowship. So I submitted an application, a resume. I had 3 letters of recommendation that I sent over to them, and I was chosen based on some of these qualifications. So my background in science, my completion of my master's in education, understanding and interest in the standards, 5 years in the classroom, and then being detail-oriented and excited about joining this team. And so those are some of the things that were outlined in the letter as well. And then these were some of the responsibilities of the fellowship. I know you guys had some questions about that the last time we got together. And so the responsibilities kind of from their standpoint, and also for myself, would be to create educational units that support the understanding of energy usage. That's kind of their main focus. And aligning these to the standards, so that's important to them. Also collaborating with their advisors, so traveling to wind farms, meeting with FERC representatives about energy usage in the country, so that this is accurate information that I'm bringing back and incorporating into the curriculum. And also to educate and understand about the clean power market in the US. I will also hope to participate in conferences that are connected to the next gen. I'm in a great spot for that, so very close to a lot of things that's going on. And then lastly, to work collaboratively with a dynamic and passionate team who's wanting all these things to work out. So those are some of those responsibilities. How will I be supported? So I don't need to read it all to you, I suppose, at this point, but that I will be working with this team and in touch with them continually about the standards and my process, and incorporating kind of their interest into it as well. And also, this is an unpaid position, but they do expect me to relocate to Washington, D.C., and we'll be paying a small living stipend. And lastly, some of the deliverables. I know that you guys were curious about what are the things I'm going to bring back. So for sure, I will be bringing back a fully aligned STEM unit with curriculum documents and classroom activities and materials. Also, other education modules at this point, so beyond just that energy one. Also, materials that are adapted to use for their employee engagement program, so that's kind of more towards them, but I'm sure could be modified for the classroom. And also a model for how to integrate STEM into our curriculum and using these standards to do that. And last, we have some things that I'm going to bring back for sure would be these quarterly check-ins with Christine regarding those standards. So we're doing a lot of work at the high school level right now, experimenting with how to incorporate these standards into things we're doing right now and what that looks like. And we've been working really hard at the high school level to break that down and really understand it as we build it back up for the people coming in next year. So I will surely be checking in with her and giving kind of tips along the way so that when I come back and we're kind of full on into this, that she will have some materials to start with, for sure. So, and that is some of the questions that you guys asked, and if you have any others, I'd be more than willing to answer them.
Lindsay, thank you for coming back.
Sure.
And for doing your homework. A+. And thank you for really synthesizing it into a very, we like these charts, right? They're, really helped with the questions that we had and the answers that were provided. I want to speak personally before, of course, this is the decision of the board, but I think that this is very exciting, and I think that more than any other presentation I've ever seen, the applicability of what you're going to bring back to our district from this potential sabbatical is huge. So I feel very good about it personally, but I know I have a team here, so. Anybody else want to comment?
I have a lot to say, but I'll let Eric go.
Just cough him and cough on him when he's done.
That's right, when you're ready.
Information.
Sure.
Appreciate that. I guess a couple things that stood out to me was, he said would be, this educational part would be for the success of their company, which brings me back to my mindset again, as you know. So what educational value does the World Bank bring to the scenario?
One of their big branches is an educational branch, so they have lots of resources that I haven't even had a chance to dive into, but they have their energy component of the World Bank, and they have an educational component of the World Bank. So huge kind of networking opportunities, I think, is what that brings. And the connection that they have is someone that's pretty high up at the top. So I think kind of connections and networking at that point is really the benefit of the World Bank and bringing that in.
Argue with the World Bank. I mean, come on.
The name alone.
Talking to somebody from the World Bank.
Sorry, maybe it's mine.
I was going to share.
No,
I was
okay.
going to share. Okay, another question I had was, last time we spoke, there was many of the people that were a part of this company, because they said you want to have you go to Washington D.C. because that's what the company is.
Right.
But we know the company is really just an apartment building, so to speak, address. And some people work in Massachusetts. I think you told us, that, why couldn't you telecommunicate, so to speak?
Mostly because of those connections with the people that are there, and that wind farm being in Virginia and traveling out and seeing them there would be the main component. And the person who is in Boston is relocating to DC, so they're trying to establish that network and that place beyond just telecommunicating. So
Last question, does Maine produce green energy?
we do.
Okay.
Is that a test?
It is, because we do a lot,
do.
and we've had it the oldest
ton.
source that there is.
Yeah.
And that's, that's something that's available to us right here versus paying for, credits can still, it's not a bad thing, it's a legal thing, and it's done by the EPA. We can all question some of the stuff about it, but it is still a little bit of a shell game. There's still a little bit of interpretation on saying that you produce green energy because you're buying certificates versus what we do right here, the old-fashioned way, right over hydro. But I'll shut up at that point and give it to
Kate.
Kate.
Okay.
Go for
She's
it.
ready.
Thank you for coming back.
Sure.
First of all, I can't tell you how many times this board, one member or the other, has said, can we not think outside of the box? And here you are, thinking outside of the box. And you're a female discussing STEM. I don't think it gets any better than that. I want to refresh the board's memory about our strategic plan. And the number 2 thing is to attract, hire, and retain the very highest quality of staff members in support of our core vision and mission. While in the past, because this is kind of the box we were in, that looked like getting a sabbatical by going back to higher education. In this particular case, we have a student who got a degree, then went back and got a science degree, then went back and got a master's degree, and now wants to further her education in STEM. That, to me, is pretty magnificent, actually. So kudos to you. With all due respect, I really don't care about the company at all. What I care about is what you get out of the experience and bring back to us. If this company in a year's time falls flat on its face and you're back here and you're with us per contract for 2 years, bravo to us. I really don't care. What I care is that you're going to be in Washington, D.C., and frankly, that's the hotbed of all of this jazz, and you're going to be exposed to people that you would never in a million years be exposed to if you sat here and teleconferenced, or even sat in Boston and teleconferenced. I think that we got to start walking the walk here. And part of our walk is to provide our students with instruction on real-world experiences. And energy is so high on the list. Every day I look in the paper. I think today there was something on wind energy. I'm constantly looking at the oil prices. All you have to do is go to the gas station and see the price. I mean, energy is huge. We have neighbors helping neighbors because of energy. People can't afford energy. So I think the fact that you're willing to not get paid, although you get half pay from us, move, expand your horizons. I am trusting you as an educator. I don't know squat about the company, but I'm trusting you because you work for us. And you said you're going to do a good job, and I believe you. There you go. Pretty impassioned, I know.
Thanks, Steve.
That's the only reason she came tonight.
It really is because I'm sick as a
She's
dog.
not feeling well. I'm just kidding.
Sorry, Jennifer.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
I have a
Yes,
comment.
Diana.
I think it does matter who the company is. You know, I still just can't seem to get past the fact that it's a private company that's going to push wind energy, because that's what they do, and then they're going to sell the information. They're trying to get customers. That's how they make a living and earn a profit. So I'm still kind of stuck on that they need to have education to push their company. Do you know what I mean? They're trying, and they want to get into schools to push that source of energy. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but if we were sitting here and it was, I don't know, some natural gas conglomerate that was hiring you, it's still a private company that's going to profit off of your work, and I guess it's taxpayer money that's sending you there. You know what I mean? If you took a leave and it's just something you were into and you wanted to do, it's like, great. But it's the fact that we're asking taxpayers to send you there, and then they're going to profit from your work. Hopefully we will too, but we don't exactly know that. So yes, it does matter who the company is. It totally matters.
Not to me, but I understand what you're saying.
And just to put it in perspective, though, we have given sabbaticals for people to actually do internships working in organizations where, you know, they're doing a job. They're, you know, a psychologist in an organization doing a job. So in order to gain, sometimes you have to give, and, you know, sometimes you're giving to I can't remember the institutions even that we didn't question it at the time.
Our most recent sabbaticals.
Our most recent
Both
sabbaticals
of them.
were people in, who were working in some sort of business or organization that they were working as psychologists, because they needed to get those training hours, working hours. So I see what you're saying, but, you know, I think that the take home for us is what we get out of this as a district. And is that worthy of the time and money and effort on our part? Good.
I think I have to say I'm most impressed with your passion. I mean, you're probably the most passionate person I've ever seen. It's been a few years, not as long as, but a few, that I've seen sit out here who has a lot of belief. You're the type of person, I think, who would be successful. I don't care what you did. If a year from now that company went belly up and they made money off of what you did, that wouldn't be my main goal. My main crux is the fact that you would be out there, you would learn things, and you would bring it back. Because that's the whole thing of why we give sabbaticals, is what do we as a district and our students gain from this? And I see, even though, you know, I'm not even going to talk about this company. I don't want to even get into that again. But I see the knowledge that you're going to gain out there benefiting the students along the lines of, I mean, that's all we've been talking is STEM, STEM, STEM. I mean, that's been the big thing. Whether wind power becomes the big thing or if it fades into the dust, I think what you gain is that whole perspective and those contacts. I mean, you gain, it's kind of like every conference, everything you go to may not be the best in the world, but you know what? Everybody walks away with some increased knowledge. And I think that you, just by what you've done here, have shown that you have the capability to take what you learn out there, make something out of it, and bring it back and share it with our other science teachers and our students. I mean, I in the beginning, I was not for this, because I'm not big on these sabbatical things, as Kate knows. But I'm impressed, I have to say. I am really, really impressed. I'm impressed by your presentation and the amount of work and energy and time and effort and your passion that you've put into this. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd like to hear from the superintendent if I could.
Be happy to put a plug in. First of all, I look at Lindsay as an educator, and she's been really outstanding at the high school. And when she came and met with me from the start, I knew that she was very into STEM and teaching science, and that she just wanted to go to the next level. So I worked with her and found along the way from the start that she was clear on what she wanted to do. And in addition to that, I know Mr. Howell has been supportive of this, and Christine, our curriculum person, definitely sees a connection to the standards work. If you think about what's going on right now with standards-based education, it's unpacking those standards and trying to make sense of how you can build units in the content areas. Each content teacher in the high school is working on this type of work. And what better way to make a connection with a business that is into STEM to bring it to life? So I just think it's a wonderful opportunity, and for a $40 million budget, $30,000 for something like this really is not a lot of money. And I know budgets are tight, but if you look at corporations, they probably would have more people out there in the field taking a sabbatical or learning and bringing back that information. Conferences just aren't going to do it, but something like this is really going to have a huge impact. So I am fully supportive of this. but probably more so because I just really have a deep respect for Lindsay and the work that she's done at the high school. So I do trust her, and I think she would not get herself behind something if it did not make sense to her or to the organization. So that's it.
Even if that company fails this year, I think you're going to come back with the curriculum. I just sense it. You're going to be knocking on the door at the World Bank. Hello. Anyway, any other comments, questions? No? All right, well, we do have to vote tonight, so we shall vote. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. All right. We did make the motion, or we did not?
No, we didn't.
Shnikey,
Would you like to
did
do it?
that wrong.
That's okay. She
Yes,
did her
please.
presentation. It's fine, like it was. I move to approve a sabbatical leave for Lindsay Hansen for the 2014-2015 school year.
Great. All those in favor? Okay. All those opposed?
You didn't ask if there was
Any abstentions? Is that what you're going to ask?
any. No, you didn't ask if there was any
Comments?
questions.
Sorry. Too late.
I'm excited.
It's done. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Lindsay. And we expect that the next speaker at the high school will be the head of the World Bank, please.
Sure, you got it. Thanks for having me. Again.
Yeah. And don't worry, you will be coming back to talk with us.
Oh, yeah. You don't get away that easy.
Not until after
Back
it's all
again.
over, but you will, we like to hear the fun stuff. So
Yes.
You get to come report. Great. When it's all done. Great.
All right, thank you.
Where did I put my agenda, ladies and gentlemen? There it is. Okay. And look at that. We are still ahead of schedule. We're on a roll tonight, guys. Good. So there were some questions at our last meeting. A lot of emails came flying back at us, so a lot of information has come back at us. So this is our opportunity to deliberate again a little bit. So I think that worked pretty well last time. We raised a subject and discussed, and then had an opportunity to raise another subject and discussed. So if we can just maybe continue there. I'm going to be very honest. I've been down for the count for the last 2 days, so I do not have as much information at my fingertips as I would like. So I'm going to let you guys roll with.
Can we start with the technology with the
Yes,
high school?
because we have a representative here, Bob Hickey.
Come to the table.
Let's start with our technology. We had a lot of questions about.
I think Mr. Howell wanted
Yeah,
to do
too, I
And
think.
Mr. Howell, thank you. He was sitting at the back of the room, so students that's sitting at the back of the room get ignored.
There's but we have 2 seats at the table.
Yeah, come, you can
Come
both-
on, look at that.
So there were just some questions about why the choice of the MacBook Airs, the costs, and the difference between that and the MacBook Pro, and we were falsely informed about the one being more expensive than the other. So, thank you. I did actually skim over the letter that you wrote, which was very thorough, Chris. But if there's more that you would like to share with the board, that'd be.
Sure. One. Thank you for at least taking the time and indulging my writings to take a look at some of the reasons behind the choices that were made. And just so for the public who's not had a chance to take a look at this, what I highlighted is some of the reasoning that's gone behind some of the replacement plan for Wyndham High School. And currently the deployment at Wyndham High School is that we have, all of our staff have MacBooks, which were part of the MLTI program 4, if not 5 years ago. And in the last and most recent deployment, the governor made the decision that he would not reissue computers to our high school staff. And in the previous budget, you as a board actually purchased those MacBooks coming off of their 4 years with MLTI for $49 a piece. And those machines are starting to show their age for as far as instruction and classroom use. What students have are the Dell netbooks, which were purchased through a lease purchase for, I think we're finishing our 4th year with those. And right now they're really starting to show their age. And I'm informed by Mr. Hickey that we actually can't get parts for those anymore. And it's a question whether or not even going beyond, if we didn't do anything this year, whether or not we could actually get them to survive another year. Or could we get replacement parts for them. So we kind of went to the drawing board earlier in the year, and in November, we spent some time surveying students and staff as far as what do you want to go in a direction for a machine. And we had 78 teachers, which is actually our full teaching load, participated. It's actually the first survey that they've all done. And roughly 507 students who participated. And overwhelmingly, both students and teachers said that they'd like to stay with a Mac-based platform. And when then asked if it was a Mac-based platform, what would you like? There was not a lot of interest in the iPad, and quite a bit of interest in a MacBook or a MacBook Air. And so I know there were some questions that the board had as far as difference between a MacBook and a MacBook Air. And you know, honestly, I don't think I really actually answered those in the letter that I sent. But what I did send you as a second piece are the solutions that currently the MLTI program, which is the Maine Learning Technology Initiative, it was actually started by Angus King. Probably, I think we're going on 10 years plus in that particular program. But what they offer for Mac-based platform programs, one is the one that our middle schools are currently involved with, which is iPads for students, and then a Mac Air for teachers, as well as an iPad mini for teachers, and then an Apple TV in every classroom to then basically to get rid of these things for staff. So anywhere that you walk in the classroom, for students and staff, you actually can display the work, whether it be on a screen or a TV, whatever that thing is connected up to. And so the secondary option, which they also offer at the high school level, which is a MacBook Air, which is a 13-inch for staff. It's actually the same machine that the middle school teachers have. Not an iPad for students, but a Mac Air 11-inch. It's just slightly smaller. And that's it. There isn't an iPad mini involved with that purchase. And part of the differences between that is the cost of the Mac Air for students is a little bit more expensive than obviously an iPad is at that point.
Keyboard on a Mac Air.
On a Mac Air, and I don't actually have one, and you've got one? That would be great.
Of course, you've got one.
Well,
I think he has everything in his bag of tricks.
I would think a keyboard is vital at high school.
And that was one of the pieces of feedback that we heard back from staff and from students, is that you know, parts of their lives which they could easily navigate through email and then correspondence through something like this, the touch type. But when it came to actually day in, day out, I'm just going to pass that around. Sure. Do you want to log on?
Is that the 13 or 11?
This is the 13. This would be a staff.
So it's 2 inches,
2 inches
this
smaller,
way
correct.
smaller. So
They
it's
make
not
it-
this way, it's across the screen.
Can
Sorry.
they make a bigger one?
The 13 or the 11? No.
No,
It's
it's-
the sizes that they have. And the board had asked why the MacBook Air over the MacBook. The regular MacBook is not part of MLTI. The only options are the iPad or the MacBook Air. So you'd be outside of the MLTI program if you went with the
Which makes it
MacBook.
more expensive.
Yes.
Skinny, isn't it?
That's the Air. And there's actually, I just make sure.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. No.
Show and tell is hard for us.
It's like, you know,
You know,
can't
it's
walk
like a
and chew
classroom,
gum.
right?
Yeah.
Somebody brings their baby brother and we gotta look at it. We're just all drooling on this.
Yearly.
So pretty. Yeah.
I wish my bag was big enough. This would fit in.
All right, continue, sorry.
Oh, I like the size of it.
Lost my train of thought there for a second. The student machines would be a little bit smaller. You know, a couple pieces with those is that, number one, it's a solid state drive. And I know to our kind of southwest, Bonnie Eagle actually did this deployment for their high school this past year. And so far, as far as durability and things holding up and student respect for the machines has actually been quite high. In fact, with the aluminum case, they basically have built like tanks, and that they've held up very, very well.
Did they get a case?
There is a case that comes along with it as well. And then also for every 15 students in our deployment, we also receive an Apple TV which then can be deployed into classrooms. And for those of you who haven't done the share, it allows you to then wirelessly sync not only teacher machines but student machines to that, which then allows for sharing across a classroom.
So how many Apple TVs would you get?
It's one per every 15 students,
Wow, that's a lot.
so it's about 70 some odd.
So
Um,
one-
which-
one in
Is that
every
one for
room.
every classroom?
We'd be able to put one into every teaching space. The other thing that they do also provide for us is that for those of you who may have an Apple TV in your home, they have an HDMI hookup, which is kind of the standard digital hookup. Many of our projectors don't have that, so they're also would be providing donagles or I forget what the exact adapters that then would allow us to work with our current projectors. And pretty much at Wyndham High School, we do have one projector for every teaching space that is there. And I know some classrooms have gone to larger TVs as well, but allows us to do that. And just, I know there's been some questions from, why actually even go with a Mac platform versus the PC platform. And I tried to kind of capture some of my thoughts through that process. Couple things that have come to light through our recent deployment is that, number one, we've had teachers on Macs for 8 years now. And materials and the software that comes with that, that's something they've been working with for a long, long time. And so any changes even to go to a PC-based platform would be definitely different for them. Regardless of the platform, we heard loud and clear from students and staff they want the same programs. Right now, if Kate had her netbook and I had my MacBook, we don't even have the same software other than Office that we're running together. And so that became a difficulty, and we have some students who've kind of made that a little bit of a game, which is, I can't get it to work on mine, but teacher can get it to work on theirs, when in fact there might not be an issue. We've nipped that one in the bud.
And the dog ate my homework.
And the dog ate my homework. And other pieces, and this is kind of even a piece about going just straight with MLTI over our own purchase, is that part of working through this program is that you are guaranteed any updates that take place over the course of the years. Whereas with our netbooks, we were responsible for purchasing any software that was on them, and other than we started with the netbooks with pretty much a freeware image, now we've included Office, but really the image hasn't changed a whole lot. Another piece I shared with all of you is for those of you who may have an Apple product and are so used, sometimes it's annoying, to the Apple Updater, which says, these number of programs need to be updated. That's how imaging is going to be working going forward. And so students throughout the year, if there's a new OS system or if there's a new program or an update, students will just do their own image. And they'll just hit update, and then it will go through. Staff would not be required to turn in their computers at the end of the year for a re-imaging. With Peter Mullen, who's traditionally done that, they would be able to do their own image and just hold on to their machine as that continues to go through. So we're kind of at a point with trying to make a recommendation, and based upon what I've heard from students and from staff, and for what I think would be a good workable solution that not only will work for the next 4 years, but each time these things go off of retirement or they go off deployment, we have done well then taking many of the Apple products and deploying them at the younger grades. It's also a possibility if we have a decent set that we're actually taking care of, that we can get some extra life out of these pieces. What I sent you for numbers, if you're at all curious how I came up with all those, in the participation packet and deployment packet that MLTI sends, they actually give us an order form where you can put in everything from numbers of seats to numbers of students to network costs. And then in addition to that, the staff machines are subsidized. So we are only paying a fraction of what a staff machine costs over the 4 years, and that's being subsidized through the state of Maine through this process. The other piece that's subsidized for us is a wireless network, and I included in my notes the high school network would be retired. MLTI engineers would be in to put in a new network, and then that network could then be redeployed in one of the other buildings in the district That network is pretty robust. It has intelligent controls, which means Bob's in his classroom, he's got 50 kids working on something, and I've only got 5. It will actually shift that load over to my airport so that, we can keep the network going as quickly as possible. And the last thing, and this is an industry term I learned from Apple. In this particular case, and I actually like using this term, it's throat to choke. Throat to choke, which is who, when something, I've got to explain it. And I actually received it from one of our parents who worked through part of the MLTI project. But it's literally when something goes wrong, who can you reach out to grab to fix it? And one thing I think that MLTI has proven is that when they deliver a system with a network, teacher machines, student machines, that it is integrated, it's designed to go together. But if something that goes wrong, you do have the ability 24/7 to reach out and grab somebody who then,
It won't have to be Bob.
who then can go ahead and help you with your issue and fix it in a speedy way possible. So I hope that I've answered some of your questions as far as what you had and some of the choices behind it. Definitely, Bob, I'm not sure what if you want to add something.
Did you want to give us some of the financial, I think you had sent a little.
Well, Bob's gonna.
I have some financials to share with you. Let me route these around. This is a breakdown from the MLTI website, and it shows the cost of the Mac options versus the PC option through MLTI. And even though the PC option comes in at a cheaper price, as Chris has mentioned, what's really critical for success is support of the product. When we met with HP, before we were deciding on a device, we met with HP and we met with Apple, and the support and the organization, it just didn't give us a warm feeling. So even though the per unit price is cheaper, you wouldn't have the support, wouldn't have the software behind it. So, and was it Katrina or Marge asked me about other financials that I brought?
I did, I think.
Okay. What was your question, Katrina?
Well,
Short
you
memory.
sent us an email. You sent us an email about what we could sell the product
Oh.
for, and that kind
Oh,
of
that was the
stuff.
netbook.
The netbooks?
Gonna make you an offer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, I don't know, I just wanted, if you wanted to clarify any of that stuff.
On the netbooks, sure.
Was it this? Katrina, was it this one?
I think it was, yeah. Like I said, I just had a chance to glance
The,
at things, so.
This is I hope everybody has a copy of that. If not, I can give you mine.
Oh, no, we peeked at one.
Is that the one that this is primary solution, alternate solution?
Correct.
Okay. Does that have any, is there something on that about selling netbooks?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay,
just
now
the
you're,
final cost.
No, I
you're
don't- I
mixing
know.
metaphors here, so you're getting me a little confused. Are we on selling netbooks or are we on cost of the apples? I'm a little
Why don't
confused.
we
Well, the
finish
cost
the
of the
apples
apples,
first?
yeah. I mean, well, it's right here, right? They're gonna cost
Well,
us.
but we have this that he sent that showed comparisons of the total amounts. That's all I'm, which is.
Isn't that what this is?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is per seat.
Show her this one.
Correct. This is comparing the competitors.
Right. You might not have seen it because you.
I
were-
didn't see
right,
it.
Exactly. That's why I just wanted to, yeah, there's.
Okay. So do you want
So
Bob
basically
to-
what,
Him to discuss it a little, I'm sure.
we're getting the most competitive with the support, is that what you're saying?
We're getting the most competitive with the support. And
Okay.
to be quite honest, the teachers and the administration and the students feel so strongly that you want to back a product that's going to be bought in by the individuals for best chance of success. So,
Bob, can you just explain the tiers on the sheet?
sure. The sheet I just sent around, Pete?
Yeah, please.
Yes. Tier 1 is in-state, and since this was a multi-state bid, we just ignore Tier 2 because there were other states involved in, going out to bid with Apple and HP, CTL, and the others. So for the Tier 1 pricing, the iPad mini is $217 per year for the device and $49 a year for the network seat. So $273 for the air and $46 for the network seat.
Can you
So-
clarify what that means? What is a network
Sure.
seat?
When you get a network from the state, it's folded into the price. It's not really free, but when you break it out differently outside of MLTI, the costs are pretty close to the same. You're talking anywhere in the $165,000 to $200,000 range to put in the controller, the amount of access points and installation that you need. It's an expensive thing, but the controllers are expensive. So how they figure it out is the price of the actual device issued to the student. As Chris mentioned, the device to the teacher is grossly discounted, and there is a contribution by the state towards the overall network as well, but there is a per seat cost. So for 1,030 students that we have, there would be a charge per seat usage of the network, and that helps to pay for the access points and the controllers, et cetera.
You call it user.
Right, user fee, yeah.
And for the sheet that I sent you folks this afternoon, right down towards the bottom, you'll see a couple you'll see eligible staff seat assistance. That's the state subsidy that we'll be receiving per year, which is that $20,351.20. Take mine. I memorized.
So that's us.
That's money that you receive to help offset the cost. The second one that's there is also $31,300 to help offset that seat price for wireless. And so if you look at kind of that total sheet that was there, and I'm going to go over to the Apple alternate solution. The annual total cost is $354,090, but then offsets of $54,661.30 to make our annual cost $299,428. So those are, that middle line there are the subsidy pieces that we received.
Not our annual, though. This is the total.
This is an annual cost of $299,428.
So it's times four.
Yeah, yeah.
$300,000 a year for 4 years.
Got it.
So my sense is that I thought we were pretty much okay with the Apple. I don't know if that was a question for anybody else, so I
I think
think.
we were just asking, we thought there was a cheaper Apple alternative. but
Yeah,
there
that's, I
isn't.
think that was the Air or whatever, so now that we
iPad.
see
The
that,
iPad,
this
but
all
that's
makes
not
perfect
appropriate.
sense.
Yeah, we never
I think it,
had a question on it.
I like the idea that it's seamless from the middle school to the high school.
Yes.
I think
well, we
that's a
now
good
are at
plus.
home have, I have a desktop, we have an iPad, we have a MacBook, we have the phones.
Yeah,
It's all very nice, but the iPad is totally different than having.
right.
The iPad's okay middle school, but I would not support an iPad for the high school because it's just not going to do what you want it to do. So even though it's an option, I would not be supportive.
I
Just
agree.
knowing the difference between them having worked with them now, so.
Plus the support feature, I mean, working with a system integrator, anything I buy, I have to feel comfortable with the support, or it's, because of hot water.
Right.
Okay.
What, and I know you don't have the crystal ball, but we always want you to. The life of these devices?
Well,
We're hoping for 4 years, 5 years, what?
well, the state deploys by 4 years, and then we buy them for $47, $48 after 4 years, and usually we get around another 4 years out of them. I mean, we're just now looking at, I didn't want to trend this over into the netbooks, but if there's support for these one-to-one devices at the high school, then the netbooks would be repurposed. And we are getting rid of G4s, which are 8, 9 years old, and we would be replacing them with the netbooks, which will actually be 4 years old July this year. They were purchased July 1st of 2010. So as of July 1, they would be coming into the end of their 4th year here. So
Nobody knows. Who
So-
knows what's coming down the pike anyway?
about 8 years, give or take.
Just because I have you both in front of me, and I said it last time, I just would love to see if there's any kind of way we could come up with a plan where in 4 years' time, we're not starting all over again. Like, can we look at having a way to purchase a number of units each year? But I know we're already splitting this cost over 4 years, so that makes it tough. I just think it's a big bite to chunk. It would be great if we had some sort of master plan where we could
Seems like that,
Do a
and I agree,
rollover.
but it seems like that would be tough, because in 2 years' time, there could be something new or something.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily that we're committed to, but like that we have, like in our perfect world, we would be I don't
Some
know.
kind of plan.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Something,
So
we
that
have.
it's not like
yeah.
all of a sudden we have to buy 1,000 machines or 1,200 machines or whatever it is. It would be great to have a cycle where we could, be filling in. I mean, that's what we talked about with the netbooks, quite frankly. We talked about, oh, wouldn't it be great if when kids were seniors, they went off to high school with their netbook, and then, as those move forward, you replace the freshmen and move forward. Now, obviously, the netbooks are different than, I think the netbooks are very different than a MacBook Air, quite frankly. And that people might want to buy out their MacBook Air at the end of its lifetime after 4 years of high school. I think I'd be quite happy to take it to college with me. So I don't know. I just like to see you guys thinking that way, so that maybe it could be a little, not necessarily that we're trying to make revenue off of our students, but that, at that point, it's a nice machine to walk away with. Maybe they get a good deal on it, we get a little money, and then we can buy a new set for the freshmen. What do you think, Kate? Sorry. Marge.
No, she asked you a question. Go ahead.
I think. Thank you. I think it's a good idea maybe to like buy out the MacBooks at the end. I don't know how that would actually work, but I wouldn't recommend it for the netbooks. But for MacBooks, it's a little different because they have a little bit longer of a shelf life. You can get more apps as they come out. You can get new programs and stuff for them. So I think it would be like a good idea to like see if like at the end of the life of this computer we can find something to do with it after, like maybe sell it back.
Yeah. Just a thought I thought I'd throw out there since I had an audience. Yes, Marge.
This is a little apples to oranges, but it's similar to what Mike
Talking about
Kelly.
apples here, not oranges.
No, I know. But it's,
Sorry, I'm
hey,
getting
that was a
punchy.
play on words, huh? It's a little bit Mike Kelly. In the beginning, he used to come and say, okay, the buses are gone, and he wanted to buy a whole bunch of buses, and he put a plan together and said, okay, let's cycle. Now, I know it's easier on a bus because there's not much change in a bus, but I think it's a plan of, okay, where are we going to be 2 years from now, where are we going to be 3 years from now, and when do we start? It's similar to, do we allow the seniors to buy off their computers, and do we, like you said, replace freshmen coming in, so we get into some kind of a cycle, and of course the cycle would be, hopefully, everybody decides they're in love with Apple, and the cycle stays so that your base platform remains the same. It would just be a whole grade's worth of what's the latest Apple has to offer, if they seem to be running the bit. Something like that. Not exactly, it's just a thought. Something to think on.
Like we like to talk about technology, right?
I know, yeah.
Thank
I was
you.
just thinking that each year, school purchases a gift for students who are in the top 10%. Maybe the netbooks this year, Kate.
Oh, hey, you'll find that probably all wrapped and on your desk as a going away present.
You know how to shoot ski?
I don't know, that's right up there with the clock, Kate. That's all I have to say about that.
Oh, yeah,
Was your friend?
time to move on?
Okay,
Probably
so do we
won't.
have all the information we need to know about MacBooks and then some?
Technology.
Any questions about deployment with the netbooks? Because I know Bob had sent something out about that.
No, I appreciated that,
Okay.
that there were,
Good.
he sent a thing saying how he might use a portion of the netbooks, and then another portion he might try to sell, not to Kate Nealon.
Yes, because we have a whole high school's worth of netbooks that would have to go somewhere. And I think you said something about replacing the G4s, which are, I forget how many of them we
The
have.
only other thing I
don't
would
know.
say while we're in this
I don't
room
know.
with the curriculum coordinator in here too, I love that when I get to speak to a whole bunch of people, is there was some reference to going one-to-one K1. I just personally, philosophically, do not feel that we need to be one-to-one at our K1 grades. And I just would like to be sure that whatever we're doing from a technology standpoint, we're really looking at it critically that, how much time are we putting kids in front of screens from K through 25 and beyond that's healthy for them? And I don't feel that a kindergarten and first grader should be sitting at length in a school day in front of a computer, because they probably are going home and doing something similar in front of screens. And so, off my soapbox, but I would like the curriculum coordinator to be involved in that decision too. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Or anybody else
Thank
want to
you.
be on the soapbox for a few minutes while you have the opportunity? Yes, thank you for taking your time out tonight. Yes.
Before Chris leaves, you sent us something about the restorative learning program.
I'm actually sticking around for a while.
Great.
I'm
Okay.
here throughout the night, so.
Okay, well, that's the other thing that we were.
Oh, while he's
we had
here?
Some
So
information.
you just stay at the mic and.
Sure.
Just, so thank you for doing that, and I certainly very much support that we.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob, that we
Good
move
night.
ahead.
Thanks, Bob.
But I think there was a question about, was the only cost of the program 2 people? Is,
Something like 30,000.
you don't need pencils or
less.
pens or paper or anything for the program, or is that absorbed in other things? I just want to make sure if we do it, that we have a budget for it, and can support it.
The proper budget.
Right, right. So if you could speak to that, that would
No,
be.
absolutely. And actually, I've got the spreadsheet here in front of me that I think Dawn sent on to all of you. Currently, we have really three costs for the program. 2 of those costs are the individuals that work roughly 20 hours a week, which I think you can see from that. They're not benefited positions. And what we do have in benefits are really things that we're paying in Medicare expenses, your typical state and federal type expenses. The only other cost that's associated with the program, and that's why I'm not sure what Dawn sent to you folks, but
Just sent 2 ed techs.
okay.
Staff costs, he said
Yep.
to us.
The one other cost that's associated with that is the cost of the van, and currently we budget $30,000 for that program, and I think we're running a cost of about $4,500 to $5,000 for the van. And just for those of you who aren't familiar with RLP, Restorative Learning Program, it occupies kind of the upper corner of our building, which is the end that faces down towards the fire station if you're coming up 202. And it basically has its own little wing section with our Apex Alternative Education Program up in the Guac Pod. And it's individuals who are or who have experienced any sort of disruption from school. And any time that you have a student who comes before you who's expelled, one of the things that I think this district has been a leader in is that students just aren't put out and just say, go find your own education. It's school starts tomorrow, the van will pick you up at 11, and school runs till 4. And it is the expectation that you'll continue to follow through with your education until you feel like you are ready to come back and join the regular program. It's a separate transportation, and we currently send a van out, and right now we play whatever van is available with 2 individuals. One goes with the students, the other one goes and gets the van, and then at that point one goes out, makes the loop. If kids are already present who didn't need rides, then the person who's staying behind. And then at the end of the day, one person stays with students, the other person goes back and retrieves the van. So we're basically right now just taking whatever van is available down at the bus garage, and we're paying a mileage rate.
And it's the 2 ed techs.
2 ed techs.
The transportation and the teaching.
At any given time, there's always 1 ed tech with the students. The other individual would be out on the road then going to pick up students for the program. So there are some mileage costs associated with that, and whether or not that's built into a salary line within the Wyndham High School or then goes into Mike's budget for transportation cost, that is the remaining part that would be making up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marge.
Did you, was that counted in the reduction? That part,
The mileage?
the mileage part, is that showing up already in Mike Kelly's budget, or was it part of this 30,000?
Wasn't in any budget.
Part of the
Somebody's paying it now.
No, it's.
No, someone's paying, I mean presently.
presently, the 30,000 exists in Westbrook's budget. And
Then the
we,
van was part of the expense of the
we
van?
use our van, and each month we do a mileage log, and
Okay.
we bill that back to Westbrook.
Okay.
And then we then get reimbursed, or the district is then reimbursed for the cost of that mileage, which then goes back to transportation to cover the costs for pickup. So it's either now it's going to be a cost we have to absorb, or I think the original 30,000 we discussed on budget day should cover a majority of those transportation costs.
So are Westbrook students then coming to Wyndham High School to,
No,
go into
no.
this
When the
program?
program was started, it was a joint program between Wyndham and Westbrook. A couple of years ago, we split, and part of it was that funds were dropping, and it didn't make sense to continue the program because the cost of transportation was getting so high. So Westbrook has now their own program in Westbrook, and we have our own program here in Wyndham. I also want to mention, I had talked at Budget Day, we still don't know whether or not we have access to another opportunity through grants. If we can fund this through a grant, we're going to go ahead and fund it through a grant. And then it would become a carryover savings to you as a board. I mean, that would be obviously our intention to do that. However, we just feel so strongly that this program, for this amount of money, has had such an impact on so many students. In fact, this year we've serviced 44 kids through that, and you will have students coming before you in the upcoming weeks who are going to be asking for readmission, who have been through this program. And honestly, for many of those kids, it's really what's going to keep them on track for graduating with their cohort and with their class,
Or graduating at all, which
or graduating at all.
is important to us. So looking at this spreadsheet that you sent, or Dawn sent, it's $26,368 in staff.
Correct.
And so we're assuming there's another 4,000 or
Correct.
3,500 in transportation costs.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Sorry. So if we decide to do this, what's the process? We tell Sandy to put it back into Chris's budget? I just process.
Did you guys already put it back? I think you might have already put it
I
back
think,
in.
I think the
tentatively.
30,000's in the budget
Yeah.
already.
Not in the, it wasn't in the first one, but I think it,
Second,
We haven't got a new version yet. It's probably in the updated
Okay,
version.
okay,
it's
just
in
wondered.
but I'll double check.
Okay. That's just.
I think we
wanted to
sent a clear
process.
message at the last
Right.
meeting
But I
that
just
That
wanted
we
to make
we
wanted
just
to
sure-
wanted
support it.
details on it, but we were all in favor of supporting it.
Just wanted to make sure process-wise that
We
it got
didn't
in
hear
there.
from
before-
Eric, 'cause you weren't here, so are you, you also in favor?
What part?
In support of the,
Yes, in fact, I was just at the real school today, and.
It's not the real school.
Page and talked about this very
RLP.
program.
Oh.
So yes.
good.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that- Yep.
No.
No.
We're very for it.
Well, and that's something actually I'm not sure if I mentioned during budget day. RLP is not just used by Wyndham High School. Students from Jordan Small, Wyndham Middle School, and the real school do have access to RLP and are using RLP over time. So this is, though it would be moving, I guess, to the high school budget for one kind of stop for salary purposes. This is a district program for really grades 5 to 12 or 6 to 12, depending upon the range.
Great. Thank you for
Thank
those
you.
details. Very helpful.
Is that it for him?
Is that it for Chris? Anyone else? Yeah, I think, I mean, you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to sit in the hot seat anymore.
Does it need, does it need for the readmission here?
Yes, I'm here for a hearing.
Yes, Kate
I'm looking at this that, Don
is
sent.
sitting, staring us in the face, huh?
Right, and I'm not exactly clear.
And what's in it and what's not.
What's in and what's out, so,
What, this is the most current
I know, but I
with the
need,
health insurance decrease.
But it still doesn't have any salaries because those have not been agreed upon.
I'm
so
sorry.
it doesn't include
It
any
doesn't
kind of
include
salary,
any
'cause we've got a
salaries.
placeholder.
Yeah, it still has,
So that
that's
could
that's
still
with the
change.
placeholders.
Right.
This just reflects the things that we brought up at the
That's
last
correct.
meeting, the contracted athletic person,
Correct.
the savings on the health insurance, and then the offset of not having the sabbatical in the budget.
This
This
has the
doesn't.
sabbatical in
No.
it.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't have it in
No,
it?
it doesn't.
This one should, right? The $181,000 difference that we referenced last time, or 100.
No, we had, because we hadn't voted on the sabbatical.
I know, but I
and Dawn
think he
said
had
it
put
wasn't.
I
He
thought
put
he
it
put a
back, yeah.
placeholder in it.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
thought he
know
said no.
he's done a detail,
I thought he said
it
no.
would be very helpful for me just to give,
He didn't.
to have the breakdown. You know, we got the budget, you know, what's in, what's
all the
out.
changes?
up
Of the
running
things,
tab.
of the
Any
things
running
that we,
tab.
of the things that we've brought up, yeah.
Right, what's in, what's out.
And,
Right.
and this is gonna hopefully soon be recalculated again once we get all of our
Right.
contracts negotiated, which should be very soon.
So like sabbaticals, salaries, with a couple other areas.
RLP. There was this minor change to the cost of the computers based on,
Yeah.
since the last budget, because of the numbers of students.
reduced,
It was
right.
reduced.
Okay.
So that would be,
It's just my way of remembering what we talked about. If I see
Yeah.
it listed.
Yeah.
and then the other kind of big thing we talked about was supplies.
And we did get an email.
But surprise.
Surprise,
Yeah.
no supplies.
So I think we have to respect the wishes of the A-team, and I think we all have to be open to the fact that next year, come budget time, we better see some increase, or increases from where the supply budget lines are right now, at any rate. Because some of the supply budget lines are really low, and they can't, maybe for a year you can skimp it, but you can't do that for year upon year, so.
Do you support that, Sandy?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Can you just talk us
Yeah.
through that? I was a little confused by the email.
I think the A-team pretty much felt that they have done their job with trying to make cuts and additions, and just to kind of plunk salary, supplies in without looking at the big picture with all the other reductions. It seemed kind of random, and some principals said, oh, yeah, we'd love to have supplies, but then others said, well, we can get by another year without the extras. And then we just, as a group, came to the conclusion that let's
It's
just not.
part of the process.
Yeah, and
I'll wage
although
two
I
supplies.
think
They could cut.
truthfully, all the schools probably could use more supplies, because this isn't the first year that we've cut supplies. But I think for the sake of trying to get the budget passed, there is an increase. People felt that they could hold the line at least for another year. So we had a really good conversation about it.
I'm gonna go to the schools and hear about they don't have
truthfully,
supplies.
you go for 2 months adjusting and reducing, and then just to come up with a figure to try to put it back in, it just didn't make sense to the AA team. But they appreciate your willingness to.
Yeah, it is just a comment. I'm not comfortable with the whole thing. Supplies to me just sounds like such a necessity, and it seems like we've, when we're asking these administrators to come up with cuts that, they're going to supplies, but I don't know, the supplies are a basic necessity. I want to make sure that our students have what they need for a good learning environment, and it just seems like there should be other places where we can make some of these necessary cuts. I know we're putting it in the hands of the administrators, but I don't know, it seems to me like skipping supplies is like skipping meals in order to keep some of your extraneous stuff.
It's sort of like it's skipping a snack or skipping a meal. It's like skipping a teacher or skipping a supply. That's the way when we give them a goal, they look at where they can cut. And at this point, in buildings, you're not talking about transportation and special ed and facilities and da-da-da-da. You're talking about people and supplies. And that's kind of, and unless the numbers are changing for people to go, or programs to go, then supplies is the only other place, if we're gonna reduce, or keep the budget restricted. I don't disagree with you, I'm just, throwing it
Wasn't our
out there.
message, though, to add something back to cover supplies, not to take it from some other line?
Yes, but I think when they sit down as a group or as an individual, some people may have said, well, I can give up this much in supplies, and somebody else might have said, well, I'll give up this, this program or this teacher. So for us to go back and say, well, you can all take back some supplies, well, this person over here, I'm just theorizing, this person over here who gave up a teacher, let's say theoretically, then they don't get to get as much supply back. Does that make sense? So they've done this like cooperative thing to all give up a little bit, and they don't feel like now it makes sense to take back a little bit.
And at the same time, it's not a hill they want to die on. I mean, it's pretty rare that.
If we're gonna throw money at them, they'll
back,
take
so-
it.
But I think it's more of a process
Right.
point. So that's all.
Kate, and then.
I understand the process standpoint. To be honest, though, this really isn't a lot of money. It's not going to equate to a staff member
Right.
by any means. And my concern is that, how much do teachers spend out of pocket? Because we have slashed and burned the supply account. I mean, it's easy for, I don't want to say that. It's not easy. But supplies is a go-to place because, well, we'll figure it out or whatever. And then I hear you say, well, now we're begging for pencils. I mean, it's a conundrum that, well, I appreciate the A-team's position on it. If not this budget season, then I think we ought to make it a topic for next go-round, that we really kind of take a further look at this supply thing, because we're asking an awful lot of our staff. And I can't even imagine how much out of pocket they are spending, because that's the go-to line. So that's my concern, from a staff standpoint, from supplies in the classroom standpoint. It's just concerning, because that's what parents hear.
Oh, yeah.
They hear, oh my gosh, taxes are going up, but they can't even give us pencils? That's what the community hears. And I don't think that's healthy, to be honest.
Well, just so you
Marge,
know,
go
since
ahead.
we have kids in there, we supply a lot of the
No, I know.
supplies. Okay, is really what happens, even like with the art.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, I know. Those
Which I
emails
have
go out
personally
and
no
they'll ask.
problem with. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking parents to help with that.
Well, we've got to be cognizant of the fact that 33% of our students,
A lot of people
our
can't-
staff cannot afford it, because they're on free and reduced.
Yeah.
So that's also, I mean, I hear you, because
No, but just so, I don't know if teachers have to buy supplies as well, but they hit up the parents all the time, so.
And I'm with Kate on this, and I mean, we're not going to embarrass, naturally, the school administrators and say, well, we think you should have each X amount of dollars to do supplies. So I agree with it, that next time we sit and do this, I mean, there has to be some more thought on the building administrators as to, can we
Hello, could you
really
go?
cut? Yeah, it's like, hello.
Well, and to
But-
their
and
credit,
then-
not
and
all of
then-
them went down, so.
They didn't, but this kumbaya thing that they have going on. Okay, well, that's good, but I feel I still have got to feel bad that they don't have supplies. And I guess, and the other thing is between now and next year, I think we need to look at, okay, how do we raise more revenue? Because I think that is also a big thing, so that they wouldn't feel responsible to having to cut supply lines if we could find a way, we being everybody, to increase revenue coming in. It's kind of looking at, and, I know it's not a favorite topic, but that pay to participate, and I don't know, and every now and then somebody comes up with and being creative, and I think one time somebody looked at, I don't know if they went to the advertising, on the fields, I mean, just other ways out there, because we do, and I'm telling you, and Kate's right on the perception out there, and these are the taxpayers who are going to approve our budget, is that my kids are coming home, and I know because my grandson did it, and the teacher told them if they see any pencils, speaking of pencils, in the hall, to pick them up, because they need all the pencils that they can find.
It's just their creative way of getting kids to pick up things on the ground.
I wish I believed that. You know what I mean? But I think it's a tough thing. It's a tough spot for everybody to be in. And the other thing we have, I know there are some building administrators who don't basically believe in that policy of sending lists home for their students to bring things in. And so I guess if we could, it might help if we could get something that's consistent through the district as to, because I can remember that when my kids were in school and some of my grandkids, the beginning of the year,
They got the list.
there's a list, but to have some schools where, there's constantly, because I would see some from some of my grandkids, and from the other ones, I really wouldn't see anything come home, a very small list, and some teachers even put tissues and sanitizers before Bill bought the store out on hand sanitizers and stuff like that. So, so I would honor their request that we give them nothing. Do you have something to say on that, sir? I see your hand keeps going up, can you?
Yeah, come to the mic though if you're gonna speak.
Just if I could speak on behalf of the administrators, thank you just for an opportunity to speak for a second. One of the things that we discussed, and just so that, is that we did not feel, given the targets that we were given, to add supplies back and then to go back and then cut something else in order to be able to get back to that supply line, that was something that we can do, because we thought really we'd gone through a very thoughtful budget process, as Sandy described, to get to those lines. So to then have to cut additionally to then restore a supply, at that point we did not feel like it was something that we could do in a process. So if I can I just wanted to clarify just our thought process, because we did spend quite a bit of time hashing this around.
And I on that same vein, I may be wrong, but I'll speak for myself, not everybody else. But my thought was never that, the supply should go back, therefore it should come from somewhere else. We were thinking of, there is, wherever we get it from, there is some bucket of money, whatever dollar value, right? And Jerry's idea was great, that, it would be some amount, everybody gets the same amount or whatever. And it goes to each one of the schools, and they spend it on supplies. I don't think our plan was ever that you had to reciprocate by, say I gave you, the board said, okay, we're giving you 5,000. Oh, by the way, go find someplace else to cut it. That was never the intention of the discussion that we had. And if it got interpreted that way, I'm sorry, because.
Does it have to be supplies? I mean, there were positions that were reduced, and perhaps people would prefer to
See, that's why I think
add.
this wasn't
you know,
all.
That could be. Because we were talking
It's just
supplies.
hard, that's all.
Yeah.
But if you want to
But
give
that's
us money.
fine.
If you wanna give us money, we'll find a way to
Absolutely,
spend it.
take it. I hear the passion, I hear the
I
passion.
think our intent, I recall, was supplies seemed to be an area, but I think I had said that may not be where someone needs it or wants it. But to speak to some of what you're saying, Chris, and several places, is that we give you a target amount, and I imagine we come back and say, here, you have some more money, and you probably say, well,
Why didn't you
why
tell
not
us
from
that
in the first place? So I can understand that would be a frustration, than if you thought cut somewhere else. So I think we as a board, when we look at those targets, there's a reality to how much can get cut, and we had a number, and it's a tough number, and I don't think we can keep doing that. I love your idea of revenue. We're never going to make $1.2 million extra revenue every year to just open the door. It's not reality, and reality is people know we can never not have a tax increase. It's just not going to happen if you're going to have a halfway decent school. And you're not talking bone, we're talking programs, and we all want RLP, but $30,000, and it's gonna increase the budget, and we're gonna be more than 3.3% probably, and I'm fine with that, I don't have a problem with it, but this is really hard. It's hard to say, go to 3% when it means cutting things like, but I would be frustrated if money was given back, and boy, I know you work hard, very hard, and it would be frustrating. Why didn't you just why'd you tell us to have to cut so much from the get-go? So it's a tough one, but anyway.
You had their hand up over here.
I've been waiting patiently.
Take it from Eric.
Well, I'm at the end of that patience because, anyways, I get reminded of the rules. Anyways, I don't see why we don't, and I'm new at this, and I looked at it the same way probably from a taxpayer's hat when I came into the seat. I don't see why we don't fund what we need to fund. We need something, we need to fund it.
Well,
That's-
You can
we
talk to
just
the
said
people
that
in the
a certain
grocery
amount of
store.
money was nothing compared to the overall budget. Well, if we need supplies, then fund it. We need to.
but that's what they're saying is some people don't need
Not this
supplies.
particular time, but next
Okay.
year. Let's fund it.
Great. But you have to also be able to get the budget through the public. They have to vote for it, so.
And I'll speak to the public.
Yeah.
I haven't heard or seen a single person.
Well, you will.
You will.
Call me.
You will.
Jen had her hand up.
Jen.
I remember after that.
You said that was so staggeringly amazing.
Yeah, back to kind of our original conversation. So I think the way we had talked about it was we were all kind of appalled at all the cuts to the supplies, because that's what we hear about as the taxpayers and the parents. And so we started talking about, let's put the supplies back, and then I think the point came up was, well, maybe some people didn't cut supplies, so let's just say, here's some money, each of you can kind of put it back as you need. And so when we heard that, no, we're good, I was a little surprised at that. So I think when we come up with that initial budget, I know at least for me this year, I didn't have a lot of good things to base that initial discussion on, so I think seeing how it played out, let us go back and rethink some of these items. So. And when you think of it as, we talked about like a $20 per household tax impact or something we had talked about?
Well, it depends.
Depends.
Depends on the
But-
value of your house.
Where you live and how much your house costs.
Yeah. But, adding a couple extra pennies to that to make sure we all have pencils and tissues seems reasonable.
Kate.
I don't want to breathe on anyone.
We don't want you to.
I'm digging this because I'm not on the screen. I'm not really on supplies right now, though I concur that next year maybe we need to give some direction as to how we want that to pan out. But on the bigger scene, back to my request for having kind of a tick list of what's in and what's out. One thing that and of course we don't know, until we get that, we really won't know, and until we have the health and the salary, excuse me, in there, we really, we don't know where we land.
Yeah.
And so, I just want to throw it out there that, I know, we're just hacking, aren't we?
You go sit with her.
That once I see what we're adding in, I know we have 200, I believe we have 280 in the contingency fund that we did not tap last year. And as far as I'm aware, that's not earmarked, that's emergency funds. But I would like to keep an open mind that if whatever this pans out to be, because I don't know, some of you are more privy than I am, we might consider tapping into that for, say, the 30,000 for the RLP.
Rather than
changing
budget.
this. Just to be fiscally responsible, I mean, we did kind of give a pretty stringent directive. And unless there's a very good reason that we need to keep 280,000, which I know in the big scheme of things is not even close to the percentage that we're probably supposed to have, I'd be very willing to look at that.
Great. Any other comments? No? Okey doke. Any other topics that we haven't brought up yet? That people wanted to discuss? Budget-wise.
I'm looking at you, Eric, because you weren't here last week, so I thought you would
Did
have.
you get to watch it?
No, I went to bed.
Oh,
No,
oh,
but I
that's right,
mean,
he was
they
sick.
do- Is it not playing?
Oh, no, I did not. It's been one long,
Okay.
miserable week.
No, it's all right.
Being in a bear and anyways.
I think
Yeah.
we've pretty much brought up all of the areas that we that we discussed and needed follow-up on.
I watched the emails.
Yeah. All right. So I think there was this? Was there any follow-up? We just need to know what's in and what's out on this.
Yeah, we'll do that.
That would help.
And then probably by the next time, hopefully we'll soon be able to get really more,
A firm
well,
number.
by next Wednesday, we'll have to have, well, I guess.
That's right, we're
not
voting on it.
necessarily- We won't necessarily have all the contracts done by next Wednesday, so we'll have to vote on it with tentative numbers, probably.
Can we do that?
Well, the thing is, we usually do, because Don doesn't have, his numbers aren't firm down yet, even from the state and everything. His numbers aren't firm at that point.
We'll ask Dawn. We'll find
I'm
out.
not really remembering ever voting on a budget without having firm numbers, but that's maybe just my,
Well, I think the difference is they're firm because we weren't in negotiations last year.
Right.
So the number was firm then, and this year it's more of a placeholder, but
And
if we wait till after next week to vote, is that gonna make a huge
I
difference?
think it has to do with the
Yes, it's
timing
timing.
of the,
I think we can get this done pretty quick for next week.
We've done it like this
It's
before.
you mean contracts?
pretty close with salaries.
It's got a
I think.
holding space of 4% or less, so.
okay.
I think the big concern.
That's a big
has always
thing,
been that
okay?
it would be
I just
higher.
want you to know that's a very big thing, so I'm,
Yeah.
Dawn aims high. Dawn aims high.
Sorry, Pete,
No, so I was just wondering, we vote on the budget next week,
theoretically.
April 16th, and then it's not until May 28th that we have the public vote.
Right, so we're voting like, yes, we agree with this, and that's why I think there sometimes are little finagly changes, that we get more information that change that bottom line. But in essence, we're voting on that's what we want to present to the public. And then May 28th is when we present it to the
So
public.
no changes go
May 5th, it
on
goes
with
to
the
the
budget
town.
between April
There
16th
could
and May
be
28th?
Nothing, only things like,
increase.
only things that are, now we have this fact to put in here.
There's usually no increase. It may go down. That's why Dawn usually makes his placeholders a little more than they could possibly be, because it's a placeholder. So if we vote on that 41,000, no, sorry, I wish it was
41
40.
million.
I wish it was 41,000, 41 million, blah, blah, blah. Usually, it comes in a little bit lower, because Dawn tries to
Well, the
be-
revenue can change.
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
the revenue can also change.
Yes.
in that time.
We haven't had, I don't remember a time where
It's been exact.
or that it's bumped up
No.
even afterwards. Do you, Kate?
But on May 28th, the public can give input that could change that.
All right, so we don't have any dedicated budget work between the 16th and that 28th.
You want a vacation?
You thinking, planning ahead?
after all this,
there is April vacation.
Yeah.
But still, that's a month and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seems like a
but it
long
goes
time.
to the towns, May
I think it has,
6th.
I
Why does
think
it go to the towns?
It goes to the town manager and it
They
goes
have
to the
to-
selectmen.
there's
They
a
have to figure
whole
their
timing
taxes.
thing because of the two towns and the warrant articles
I don't know
and
if I
getting it
understand. Ask him.
advertised.
They vote
and-
to have the.
Yeah, all this stuff. That's why there's that much time in between.
That's what the council does.
Between that and vacation, we probably could have done it the week after, but because vacation falls, and I don't know about you, but I'm not going away, so we could meet. No, I'm kidding.
I mean,
I
it's,
do have a question. Why does it go to the towns the first, why does our budget go to the towns?
It's just, we've just always done that.
Because they
Respect-
advertise it. And they put together the warrant articles, don't they?
But they
No.
can't do that till after the public vote, so that doesn't happen till
Oh.
after the public vote.
It
Well,
does-
let's see him
It
finish.
doesn't have to go. We just started that when we consolidated. We
Okay,
just said
okay.
it'd be good for us to get a budget to the council.
Okay.
or town
So I'm
managers.
going to actually suggest that I'm not comfortable with voting on a budget until we have all of the numbers for the contracts.
Well, if we
And
can do that.
I'm not really willing to have you vote on it until we have contract numbers.
Yeah, what,
Because I just don't, I wouldn't want you to vote on something and
No,
not
I
know
agree.
if we don't have contract numbers. I just,
I don't know what the legal
don't-
requirement is as far as timing. It
Administrators,
seems
we
like
don't
there's
even meet
certain
with
but I
Until
don't think they
after.
can, we can't, do oh, I see warrant articles are what we vote on at the public meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I think we'll look into this and we won't make a decision that doesn't make sense
Yeah.
for all of us.
If Don was here, he'd
Right.
have an answer for this, I'm
So,
sure.
because
But
I just
don't know that we'll know
remember,
by next Wednesday. I don't know if we'll
We
have.
won't know. We
Do you
don't have a
think we
meeting
would
till
in 2
Thursday
weeks or 3 weeks?
for the other one.
Oh, yeah, I would
There's one
think
we haven't
so.
even met yet about.
We don't know.
One we're still in process of.
Okay.
And I'm just not comfortable with our voting on a budget, with
Yeah.
you're not knowing what's come up in negotiations. I just don't know why, I don't think you'd want to do that. I don't want to. And I have a better idea what's going on anyway, and you have no idea. I
have no idea.
I mean, truly, I mean, I don't think I would not be responsible to have you vote on a budget without our having the numbers from our contract negotiations.
I agree.
And so that's my dilemma, and if we need to meet
That
the
does happen a lot.
school vacation week, then we need
A
to
lot.
meet school vacation week if we have to get these things in.
If
and
we can have a
that's-
quorum.
Yeah, I don't know how many people are here, I'm here school vacation week, who's
I
not?
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we can probably get a quorum
Those are
together.
great.
I don't want that to happen.
Sacrificial lambs
You know, I
here.
don't want that to happen, but I'm just not comfortable with our not having those numbers that we
Well,
vote
and
on
we
the
may not
budget.
even have them school vacation week. That's
Well,
only 2
that-
weeks from right
that's
now,
I know,
so.
we may not. But there's a
So,
better chance by
we
then,
will look
so,
into this.
okay.
We will get the
We need the
details.
dates and the details.
We will make sure that whatever date by which we have to make that vote is,
Okay.
everything is
Thank you.
kosher.
I just, yeah, I would.
No, it's
yeah.
true. That's the biggest part.
Okay?
Yeah.
Think about it.
All right, Sandy, you got that?
I do. Thank you.
Okey dokey.
Like monkey
Any
wrenches
other
in, but-
enlightening
That is the largest piece.
thoughts?
It's all-
Words to live by?
Yeah.
Okay. My enlightening thoughts for this board are take care of yourselves, because we are dropping like flies.
But I didn't come like this, so I wouldn't spread it.
I know. Still, we got it. I think it was Dawn. Dawn gave it to us.
He was sick, that's true.
And then he got sick.
Dawn Davis, not this Dawn. This Dawn looked like she went on vacation.
Not tonight. We had
Okay.
another meeting. So we were
So-
meeting this afternoon, that's not.
I would just like to say, because we never say it enough, that Kate Nealand rocks. She's she's so good. She's so wonderful. I've put her on the spot so many times, and she's like completely composed and has a wonderful answer always. So thank you. And she sits quietly and respectfully and listens at attention too. So thank you for being a part of our group. And did you talk to Mr. Howell about?
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Okay, good. Good. She's putting you to work, right?
And I have a student I'd like to bring forward for an interview with the board.
Perfect.
Yay.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm only saying this because we think you're wonderful, and you do not have to stay any more tonight. You're excused. Yay! And congratulations, Kate, on being
One of the top.
one of the top 10 at Wyndham High School. Do we know where you're going to college?
Anna Maria College.
That's right, we did know that. Congratulations on that as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you going to play sports?
Yes, I am playing soccer.
Good.
Of course you are.
Really?
Isn't that a
I
surprise?
never would have thought it. My goodness. All right,
Okay,
so
so-
goodbye and good night, Kate, and thank you for all your efforts here. And we are going to move into an executive session, and we will not be returning tonight.
We have another one.
Yeah, but don't we just?
We have to come back and vote
Oh,
on
sorry,
it.
we are going to be returning tonight. So we'll go into our first executive session.
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible readmission of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 4056B.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. And we will return because we have to vote on air.
We have 3 minutes for a.
Yeah, we'll
Oh, yeah.
give us a 2-minute break, yeah. Good evening and welcome back to the RC 14 Board of Directors meeting, April 9th, 2014. It's 8:30 and we have a motion, somebody?
I move that the student under consideration be readmitted to school and that the superintendent provide the parents with a written summary of the board's findings.
Second.
Great. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And you guys are all set.
Want to do the other one? I move to enter into executive session to discuss contract negotiations regarding the district office administrator's contracts pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 405-6A and not return to special meeting.
Second.
Great. All those in favor? All right, okay. And we are off and adjourned.